Dr. Lisa Grant pressed her face against the small window of the medical ship and watched the stars rush past. The ship was called the UES Nightingale, and it was one of the fastest medical ships humans had ever built. She had been on many rescue missions before, but this one felt different. This time they were going to help aliens. The ship carried 200 doctors, nurses, and medical workers. All of them had volunteered to come on this dangerous mission. They were flying to a planet called Kepler 442b to help the Xanthari people. The Xanthari had sent out a desperate call for help 3 weeks ago. A terrible sickness was killing their people, and they did not know how to stop it. Commander Jake Morrison walked into the medical bay where Lisa was working. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. Jake had been leading rescue missions for 15 years, but he had never led one to help aliens before. "How are the medical supplies looking, Doctor?" Jake asked. Lisa looked up from the boxes of medicine she was counting. "We have enough antibiotics to treat 5,000 patients. We also brought the new healing machines and plenty of blood for transfusions. If this sickness is what we think it is, we should be able to help them." Amy Rodriguez looked up from the corner where she was preparing medical tools. She was one of the best nurses on Earth and had asked to come on this mission herself. "I just hope we get there in time," she said quietly. The last message from the Xanthari said they were losing 100 people every day. Tony White was checking the emergency medical kits near the door. He was a field medic who had saved hundreds of lives in dangerous places on Earth. Tony was not afraid of anything, but even he looked worried. "I have never seen aliens before," he said. "What if our medicine does not work on them?" Lisa smiled at Tony. "We studied their biology for months. Their bodies work very much like ours. The same medicines that help humans should help them too." Commander Morrison nodded. "That is why we are here. The Galactic Medical Accords say that all medical workers are protected during any conflict. We help anyone who needs it, no matter who they are or where they come from. It is what makes us human." Captain Helen Brooks was in the control room watching the communication screens. She was the ship's captain and one of the smartest people Lisa had ever met. Helen could speak 7 different alien languages and knew more about space than anyone else on the ship. "Commander Morrison, please come to the bridge." Helen's voice came through the speakers. Jake walked quickly to the control room. Lisa followed him because she wanted to know what was happening. When they got there, Helen was staring at a screen full of strange symbols. "What is it, Captain?" Jake asked. Helen pointed at the screen. "I have been listening to radio signals from the Xanthari planet. Something is not right. Look at this." She pressed a button and alien voices filled the room. "I do not understand their language," Jake said. "I do," Helen replied. "They are not talking about sickness. They are talking about weapons. Someone attacked them with a biological weapon. This is not a natural disease." Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. "You mean someone made this sickness on purpose?" Helen nodded. "Yes, and I think I know who. I have been picking up signals from Vorthak ships in this area. The Vorthak Empire has been taking over planets for months. They use biological weapons to make people sick, then they come in and take over when everyone is too weak to fight." Commander Morrison sat down heavily in a chair. "So the Xanthari are not just sick, they are under attack." "That is correct," Helen said. "But Commander, what do we do? Our mission is to provide medical help. We are not soldiers." Jake stood up and looked out at the stars. "We do what we came here to do. We help the sick and injured. It does not matter who made them sick. Our job is to save lives." Lisa felt proud of her commander. This was why she had joined the medical service. They helped people no matter what. "How long until we reach the planet?" she asked. 6 hours, Helen replied. Lisa went back to the medical bay and started preparing more supplies. Amy and Tony joined her, and soon other medical workers came to help. Everyone worked without talking much. They all knew this mission had just become much more dangerous. Dr. Peter Hall came over to Lisa's workstation. He was her research partner and best friend. They had worked together for 5 years. "Lisa, are you scared?" he asked quietly. Lisa stopped packing medicine and looked at him. Yes, I am scared. But that does not matter. Those people need our help. If we do not help them, who will? Peter smiled. That is why you are the best doctor I know. As the ship got closer to the Xanthari planet, more information came in. The sickness was worse than they had thought. Whole cities were empty. Millions of Xanthari were dead or dying. But the worst news came when Helen discovered more Vorthak signals. Commander, Helen called over the speakers. The Vorthak ships are still in this system. They know we are coming. Jake came back to the medical bay and gathered all the medical workers around him. Listen, everyone. We knew this mission would be dangerous when we volunteered. Now we know it is even more dangerous than we thought. The Xanthari people were attacked with biological weapons. The attackers are still nearby. The room was quiet. Everyone was thinking about what this meant. I want everyone to know that you can leave now if you want to, Jake continued. We can take you back to Earth and no one will think less of you. Amy. Rodriguez stood up first. I am not leaving, those people need help. Tony White stood up next. I came here to save lives. That is what I am going to do. One by one, every medical worker in the room stood up. No one wanted to leave. Lisa was the last to stand. She looked around at all her friends and colleagues. These were good people who had dedicated their lives to helping others. We are medical workers, she said. We help people. That is who we are. That is what we do. Commander Morrison smiled for the first time since they had learned about the Vorthak. Then let us go save some lives. The UES Nightingale flew toward the Xanthari planet, carrying 200 of Earth's best medical workers into unknown danger. None of them knew that this mission would change everything. None of them knew that the Vorthak Empire had a plan that would make humanity do something it had never done before. All they knew was that people needed help, and they were going to provide it. 3 weeks had passed since the UES Nightingale arrived at the Xanthari planet. Dr. Lisa Grant wiped sweat from her forehead as she finished treating another patient. The work had been hard, but they were winning. The human medical team had saved thousands of Xanthari lives. The plague was finally under control. Lisa's team had worked day and night to create a cure for the biological weapon. Amy Rodriguez had not slept more than 4 hours in any single day. Tony White had treated over 300 patients by himself. Every human medical worker had pushed themselves to their limits. Dr. Grant, we are ready to go home, Commander Jake Morrison said as he entered the medical tent. He looked tired but happy. The Xanthari government wants to thank us before we leave. They are calling us heroes, Lisa smiled. We just did our job. But I am ready to see Earth again. The medical team packed their equipment and said goodbye to their Xanthari patients. Many of the aliens cried as the humans prepared to leave. The Xanthari had never seen such dedication from strangers before. Captain Helen Brooks started the engines of the Nightingale. The ship lifted off from the planet's surface and began its journey back to Earth. Everyone on board felt good about what they had accomplished. Set course for Earth, Jake told Helen. Let us go home. For 2 days, the trip was peaceful. The medical workers rested and shared stories about the patients they had saved. Lisa spent time writing reports about the biological weapon and how they had defeated it. She wanted other medical teams to know how to fight similar attacks. On Nier. The 3rd day, everything changed. Commander Morrison, please come to the bridge immediately. Helen's voice came through the speakers. She sounded scared. Jake ran to the control room. Lisa followed him because she could hear the fear in Helen's voice. When they got there, Helen was staring at her screens with wide eyes. What is wrong? Jake asked. Helen pointed out the front window. Look. In front of them were 6 huge warships. They were black and covered with weapons. Lisa had never seen ships so frightening. These were not exploration vessels or medical ships. These were built only for war. Vorthak battle cruisers, Helen whispered. They have been waiting for us. The communication system came to life with a deep, harsh voice. Human medical vessel, this is Admiral Krex of the Vorthak Empire. You will surrender immediately. Jake stepped forward to the microphone. This is Commander Morrison of the UES Nightingale. We are a medical ship protected by the Galactic Medical Accords. We demand safe passage." Admiral Krex laughed, and the sound made Lisa feel cold. "The Galactic Medical Accords are meaningless. Human. You will surrender your medical personnel and all research data about human biological systems." "Absolutely not," Jake replied firmly. "We are non-combatants. We only help sick and injured people. You have no right to stop us." "You are wrong, Commander," Krex said. "We have every right. We have been watching your species for months. Your medical capabilities make you dangerous to our expansion plans." Lisa stepped forward. "Admiral Krex, we can help you too. If you have wounded soldiers, we can treat them. Medical help should be available to everyone." "Foolish human," Krex replied. "You do not understand. We do not want your help. We want to eliminate your ability to help others. Medical personnel like you make it too difficult for us to conquer planets. When people can be healed quickly, they continue to fight us." Jake felt his blood turn cold. "You are saying you target medical workers on purpose?" "Of course we do," Krex said proudly. "We have destroyed medical facilities on 47 worlds. We have killed over 10,000 doctors, nurses, and medics. It is the most effective way to break the spirit of our enemies." The bridge of the Nightingale was completely silent. Everyone stared at the communication device in horror. These aliens were purposely killing people whose only job was to save lives. "You are monsters," Amy Rodriguez said quietly from behind them. "We are conquerors," Krex replied. "And now you will surrender, or we will take what we want by force." "Never," Jake said firmly. "I hoped you would say that," Krex said. "It will make this more enjoyable." Suddenly the ship shook violently. The Vorthak had fired weapons at them, but not to destroy the ship. They wanted to disable it and capture everyone inside. "Helen, can we run?" Jake asked. "No, Commander. They are too fast and we are surrounded." The ship shook again. This time the lights went out for a few seconds before the emergency power came on. "Attention humans," Krex said. "To show you that we are serious, we will now execute one of your medical personnel." Lisa felt her heart stop. "No. Wait. We can negotiate." "There is nothing to negotiate," Krex replied. "Choose one person to die or we will choose for you." "You cannot do this," Jake shouted. "It violates every law of civilized warfare." "We make our own laws," Krex said. The Vorthak ships moved closer. Small fighter craft came out of the larger ships and surrounded the Nightingale. Lisa could see alien soldiers in spacesuits floating outside the windows. "They are boarding us," Helen said. Heavy footsteps echoed through the ship. The Vorthak soldiers were inside. Lisa heard screaming from other parts of the ship as the aliens rounded up the medical workers. Admiral Krex's voice came through the speakers again. "We have decided. The nurse Amy Rodriguez will be executed first." "No," Lisa screamed, but it was too late. Amy was dragged to the main deck where everyone could see her. She was not crying or begging. She looked at her friends and said, "Tell my family I died helping people." The Vorthak soldier raised his weapon. Jake tried to reach Amy, but other soldiers held him back. "She is just a nurse. She saves lives." "That is exactly why she must die," Krex said. The weapon fired. Amy Rodriguez fell to the floor and did not move again. The medical bay was completely silent except for the sound of people crying. Lisa fell to her knees. Tony White punched the wall until his hand bled. These were people who had dedicated their lives to saving others, and they had just watched their friend murdered for doing exactly that. "Let this be a lesson," Admiral Krex announced. "Medical personnel are not protected. They are targets. Any species that continues to heal their wounded will face the same fate." The Vorthak soldiers began capturing the remaining medical workers. Lisa, Tony, Dr. Peter Hall, and 47 others were put in chains. Jake Morrison tried to fight the soldiers, but there were too many of them. As they dragged him away, he managed to reach his communication device. "Emergency transmission to Earth Command," he said quickly before a soldier hit him. "The Vorthak Empire has declared war on medical personnel. They are targeting healers across the galaxy. Amy Rodriguez is dead. They have taken our medical staff. Prisoner. The transmission ended when the soldier destroyed Jake's communication device. Admiral Krex appeared on the ship's screens one last time. Your message has been sent, Commander Morrison. Good. We want your species to know what happens to those who heal our enemies. Soon, all of humanity will understand that there is no safety for those who save lives. The Vorthak ships left, taking the captured medical workers with them. Jake Morrison and the few remaining crew members were left alone on the damaged Nightingale with Amy's body. As the ship drifted in space, Jake looked out at the stars and spoke quietly to himself. They have made a terrible mistake. Humans do not forget when innocent people are murdered. They will pay for what they have done. But Jake did not know how much humans would change because of what happened that day. He did not know that the death of Amy Rodriguez would awaken something in humanity that had been sleeping for a very long time. Something very dangerous. The video of Amy Rodriguez's death played on every television screen on Earth. News reporters showed it again and again. People in every city, every town, and every country watched as the young nurse was murdered for trying to save lives. Something changed in humanity that day. Something deep and dangerous that had been sleeping for thousands of years woke up. President Ryan Hayes sat in his office watching the news reports. He had been president for 3 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Phone calls were coming in from every world leader. Everyone was asking the same question: what would humanity do? General Patricia Cole walked into the president's office. She was the head of Earth Defense Command and the toughest person Ryan had ever met. Today she looked angrier than he had ever seen her. "Mr. President, we need to talk," Patricia said. "I know what you are going to say, General, but we cannot start a war over this. We are a peaceful species." Patricia sat down across from Ryan's desk. "Mr. President, with respect, they already started the war. They declared it when they decided to hunt our doctors and nurses like animals." Ryan turned off the television and looked at Patricia. "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting we show them what happens when you target the people we care about most," Patricia replied. "We have been preparing for this day without even knowing it." "What do you mean?" Patricia pulled out a classified folder and placed it on the president's desk. "Project Thanatos. We started building these ships 10 years ago in case we ever faced an enemy that threatened Earth directly. We never thought we would need them." Ryan opened the folder and saw pictures of warships unlike anything he had ever imagined. These were not exploration vessels or medical ships. These were built for one purpose only: to destroy enemies completely. "How many people know about these ships?" Ryan asked. 57 people in the entire world," Patricia replied. "All of them sworn to secrecy. All of them ready to serve if the time ever came." Ryan looked at more pictures in the folder. The ships had names like UES Vengeance, UES Retribution, and UES Nemesis. They were painted black and covered with weapons. "General, these ships go against everything humanity stands for. We explore space to make friends, not enemies." "You are right, Mr. President, but the Vorthak have made it clear that they see our kindness as weakness. They kill our healers because they think we will not fight back." Ryan stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see protesters gathering. Some held pictures of Amy Rodriguez. Others carried signs that said, "Avenge our medics," and "No mercy for monsters." "The people are angry, General. Angrier than I have ever seen them." "They should be angry," Patricia replied. "Amy Rodriguez was 26 years old. She spent her life helping sick children. She volunteered for the most dangerous missions because she wanted to help people, and they killed her for it." Ryan turned back to Patricia. "If we do this, if we send these ships, there is no going back. We will no longer be the peaceful species that explores the galaxy with open hands. Mr. President, they took that choice away from us when they decided to murder our doctors." That evening, President Hayes spoke to the world. Every person on Earth watched as he stood behind his desk in the White House. "My fellow humans," he began. 3 days ago, Nurse Amy Rodriguez was murdered by the Vorthak Empire. She was killed not because she was a soldier, but because she was a healer. The Vorthak have declared war on the very idea of mercy itself. The president paused and looked directly into the camera. They have made a terrible mistake. They think we are weak because we help others. They think we will not fight because we prefer to heal. They are wrong. The camera showed the president's face and everyone could see the cold anger in his eyes. Today I am authorizing the activation of humanity's Reaper fleet. These ships were built for one purpose: to show our enemies that there are consequences for targeting innocent people. The Vorthak wanted to see what happens when they hunt our healers. Now they will learn. Colonel Marcus Lee was in a secret military base deep underground when he received the activation order. He had been waiting for this call for 10 years. Marcus had designed every weapon on the Reaper ships. He knew them better than anyone else alive. "Attention all Reaper personnel," Marcus announced over the base's communication system. "This is not a drill. Project Thanatos is now active. Report to your stations immediately." Captain Sophie Blake ran to her ship as soon as she heard the announcement. Sophie had been a rescue pilot for 8 years before joining the Reaper program. She had saved hundreds of lives in dangerous situations. Now, she would be using her skills to take lives instead. Her crew was already waiting when she arrived at the UES Vengeance. Sergeant Danny Murphy had lost his sister in a medical mission 2 years ago. Lieutenant Kelly Stone had been a paramedic before becoming a soldier. Every person on the ship had volunteered because they had lost someone who tried to help others. "Listen, up everyone," Sophie announced to her crew. "We all know why we are here. The Vorthak Empire thinks they can murder our doctors and nurses without consequences. We are going to show them how wrong they are." The hangar doors opened, and Sophie saw the other Reaper ships preparing to launch. The UES Retribution and UES Nemesis were just as black and frightening as her own ship. Dr. Peter Hall walked onto the bridge of the Vengeance. He had been Lisa Grant's research partner and best friend. Peter had asked to join the mission, but not as a doctor. He was now a biological warfare specialist. "Captain Blake, my weapons are ready," Peter said quietly. Sophie looked at Peter and saw the pain in his eyes. He had spent his whole life learning how to save people. Now he was going to use that knowledge to kill. "Peter, are you sure about this?" Sophie asked. "They killed Amy. They captured Lisa. They turned our gift of healing into a target on our backs," Peter replied. "I know exactly what I'm doing." The 3 Reaper ships launched from Earth at the same time. They moved faster than any ships humanity had ever built before. Their destination was the Vorthak home system, where Admiral Krex was probably celebrating his victory over the human medical team. As the ships traveled through space, Sophie spoke to her crew over the communication system. "We are no longer the humans who explore space with wonder in our eyes. We are no longer the species that offers help to anyone who needs it. The Vorthak took that away from us when they decided to hunt our healers." The crew listened in silence. Today, we become something new. We become the nightmare that visits those who harm innocent people. We become the consequence they never thought they would face. Sophie looked out at the stars rushing past her ship. They wanted to see what happens when they target our medics. Now they will learn that humanity has 2 faces, one that heals and one that brings death. They chose which face they wanted to see. The Reaper fleet continued toward the Vorthak home system, carrying weapons that violated every treaty humanity had ever signed. But the Vorthak had broken the most important treaty of all when they murdered Amy Rodriguez. Now, humanity was coming to collect the debt they owed. Behind them, Earth continued to mourn for Amy Rodriguez and pray for the captured medical workers. But the tears were mixed with something else now, something cold and patient and deadly. The age of human mercy was ending. The age of human vengeance had begun. The human Reaper fleet arrived at the Vorthak home system like death itself. 3 black ships appeared out of hyperspace and immediately began scanning for targets. Captain Sophie Blake sat in her command chair aboard the UES Vengeance and watched the enemy fleet through her screens. "How many ships do they have?" she asked her weapons officer. 43 warships, Captain," Lieutenant Kelly Stone replied. "They outnumber us 14-1. Sophie smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Good. That means we have enough targets." The Vorthak fleet was not expecting the human ships. Admiral Krex was on his flagship celebrating another successful raid. On a medical station, He had destroyed a hospital ship from the Talaxian system just 2 days ago, killing 300 doctors and nurses. "Admiral, we have unknown ships entering our system," a Vorthak soldier reported. Krex looked at his screens and saw the 3 black human ships. He laughed. "Only 3 ships? The humans are even weaker than I thought. Destroy them immediately." But when the Vorthak ships fired their weapons, something impossible happened. The human ships did not try to run away or defend themselves. Instead, they split up and began hunting. Captain Sophie Blake spoke into her communication system, broadcasting to all Vorthak ships in the area. "This is Captain Blake of the Human Reaper Fleet. We are here because you killed our medics. We are here because you hunt our healers. We are here because you think mercy is weakness." Admiral Krex responded immediately. "Human Captain, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and we will kill you quickly." "Admiral Krex," Sophie replied calmly. "You killed Nurse Amy Rodriguez. You captured our medical team. You declared war on the very idea of helping others. Now you will learn what happens when you target the people we care about most." The first target was a Vorthak medical ship. Sophie had studied the enemy fleet for hours and identified every ship that provided medical care to their military. These would be the first to die. "Sergeant Murphy, take your boarding team and disable that hospital ship," Sophie ordered. Danny Murphy had been waiting for this moment since his sister died on a medical mission. He led 20 soldiers onto the Vorthak medical vessel and began systematically destroying every piece of medical equipment they found. "Please do not destroy our medical supplies," a Vorthak doctor begged. "We have wounded soldiers who need treatment." Danny looked at the alien doctor without feeling sorry for him. "Where was your mercy when you killed our medics? Where was your compassion when you murdered Amy Rodriguez?" Danny's team destroyed the medical scanners, the surgical equipment, and all the medicine. They left the Vorthak medical staff alive, but unable to help anyone. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kelly Stone was piloting her fighter toward Vorthak rescue ships. These small vessels were designed to save pilots whose ships had been damaged in battle. Kelly's job was to make sure no Vorthak pilot would ever be rescued again. "This is for every medic you have killed," Kelly said as she fired her weapons. The Vorthak rescue ships exploded one by one. Now any Vorthak pilot whose ship was damaged would die alone in space, with no hope of being saved. Dr. Peter Hall was working in the weapon systems room of the Vengeance. He had created special biological weapons designed specifically for the Vorthak. These weapons would not kill quickly. Instead, they would cause injuries that required immediate medical attention. "Captain Blake, my weapons are ready," Peter announced. "What exactly do these weapons do?" Sophie asked. "They cause internal bleeding that gets worse over time," Peter explained. "The only way to survive is with immediate surgery and blood transfusions." "But we just destroyed all their medical equipment." Sophie understood. The Vorthak would die not from the weapons themselves, but from the lack of medical care. It was perfect justice. "Fire when ready, Doctor," Sophie ordered. Peter's biological weapons spread through the Vorthak fleet like invisible death. Vorthak. Soldiers began getting sick, but their medical staff could not help them because all their equipment had been destroyed. Admiral Krex was beginning to understand what was happening. The humans were not just attacking his military. They were attacking his ability to help his wounded soldiers. "This is Admiral Krex to all human ships," he broadcast. "What you are doing violates the laws of war. Medical facilities are supposed to be protected." Captain Blake's voice came back immediately. "You are the one who said the medical protection laws were meaningless, Admiral. You are the one who declared war on doctors and nurses. We are simply using the same rules you chose." The battle continued for 6 hours, but it was not really a battle. It was an execution. The human Reaper ships moved through the Vorthak fleet like hunters, targeting anything that could provide medical aid. The UES Retribution found a Vorthak supply ship carrying medical supplies to 12 different planets. Captain Ryan Foster ordered his crew to destroy every bandage, every medicine bottle, and every piece of equipment. The UES Nemesis discovered a Vorthak training facility where they were teaching young aliens to become doctors. Captain Maria Santos looked at the facility through her ship's cameras and made a decision that would have been impossible for humans just 1 week ago. Destroy it, she ordered. If they want to train doctors to help their military, they can do it somewhere else. As the battle continued, something strange began happening on the Vorthak ships. Soldiers who had been wounded in previous battles but were still recovering began dying. Without medical equipment or supplies, even small injuries became fatal. The Vorthak military was collapsing not from direct combat, but from their inability to care for their own people. It was exactly what they had done to dozens of other species. Dr. Lisa Grant was in a Vorthak prison facility when she heard the explosions. She and the other captured human medical workers had been forced to work in Vorthak medical labs, using their knowledge to help the enemy. "What is happening out there?" Tony White asked. Lisa looked out through the small window of their prison cell. She could see Vorthak ships exploding in the distance, but these were not random explosions. Someone was targeting specific types of ships. "I think someone is hunting their medical vessels," Lisa said quietly. Amy Rodriguez's replacement, Nurse Janet Miller, was also watching through the window. "Do you think it could be a human fleet?" "I do not know," Lisa replied. "But whoever it is, they know exactly which ships to target. They are going after everything that provides medical care." Back on his flagship, Admiral Krex was getting desperate. Half of his fleet was either destroyed or too damaged to fight. But the worst part was that he could not help his wounded soldiers. Every medical ship had been destroyed. Every supply of medicine had been eliminated. "Human Captain," Krex called out over the radio. "I request a meeting to discuss terms." Captain Blake's response was immediate. The time for talking ended when, "You killed Amy Rodriguez. We can negotiate," Krex tried again. "We can reach an agreement." "There is nothing to negotiate," Sophie replied. "You declared war on our healers. Now you will die without yours." The final phase of the battle began when the human ship started targeting the Vorthak flagship itself. Admiral Krex watched as the ship that had helped him conquer 17 worlds was slowly torn apart. As his ship began to lose power, Krex made one last transmission to the human fleet. "You humans are supposed to be the merciful species. You are supposed to help everyone, even your enemies." Captain Blake's voice came back one final time. "We were merciful, Admiral. We helped anyone who needed it, including people who were trying to kill us. But you changed that when you decided to hunt our doctors and nurses. You taught us that mercy has limits." The Vorthak flagship exploded, taking Admiral Krex with it. As the battle ended, Captain Blake looked at what remained of the Vorthak fleet. A few ships were still intact, but they were all damaged and had no way to help their wounded crews. "This is Captain Blake to all surviving Vorthak vessels," she announced. "You are free to go. Tell everyone what happened here today. Tell them what happens when you target humanity's healers." The surviving Vorthak ships limped away from their home system, carrying news of their defeat to the rest of their empire. Captain Blake turned to her crew. "Set course for the Vorthak prison facilities. We have doctors to rescue." 5 years had passed since the battle at the Vorthak home system. The galaxy was a very different place now. The Vorthak Empire had collapsed completely, not from military defeat, but from their inability to care for their own people. Dr. Lisa Grant stood in front of a large window in the new Galactic Medical Center on Earth. She was watching construction workers finish building a memorial wall. The wall had the names of 2,847 medical workers who had been killed by the Vorthak during their war against healers. At the top of the wall, in large letters, was the name Amy Rodriguez. "The memorial looks beautiful," Tony White said as he joined Lisa at the window. Tony was now the director of the Reaper Medical Corps, a new organization that provided medical care to humanity's allies while denying it to their enemies. "Amy would have liked it," Lisa replied quietly. "She always said that helping people was the most important thing anyone could do, and now we make sure that people who hurt medical workers never get help again," Tony said. "It is what she would have wanted." The Reaper Medical Corps was humanity's strangest creation. They were doctors, nurses, and medics who had sworn 2 oaths. The first was to help anyone who respected the sanctity of healing. The second was to deny aid to anyone who targeted medical personnel. Captain Sophie Blake walked into the memorial room. She was no longer a ship captain. After the war, she had become the administrator of the former Vorthak territories. Her job was to make sure the conquered planets received excellent medical care, but under very strict conditions. The Zenthari delegation is here for the ceremony, Sophie announced. They want to thank humanity again for saving their world. Lisa smiled. The Zenthari had become humanity's closest allies after the war. They had built hospitals on every world in their territory and trained thousands of new doctors and nurses. They understood that medical workers were sacred. How are the former Vorthak worlds doing? Lisa asked. Better than expected, Sophie replied. Once we started providing medical care again, their populations began to recover, but they know the rules. Any attack on medical personnel means immediate suspension of all aid. The rules were simple and everyone in the galaxy knew them. Humanity would provide the best medical care in the galaxy to any species that respected healers. But if you hurt a doctor, nurse, or medic, humanity would ensure you died without medical help. Dr. Peter Hall entered the room carrying a tablet with the latest reports. He was now the head of the Medical Protection Agency, which monitored threats against medical workers throughout the galaxy. We have good news, Peter announced. It has been 18 months since the last recorded attack on medical personnel, anywhere in known space. 18 months, Tony repeated with satisfaction. I think our message has been received. The message was indeed clear. 3 species had tried to attack human medical missions in the past 5 years. All 3 species had watched their civilizations collapse when humanity removed all medical support from their territories. President Ryan Hayes walked into the memorial room with General Patricia Cole. They were both older now, but they carried the weight of the decision they had made 5 years ago. Are we ready for the ceremony? President Hayes asked. Yes, Mr. President, Lisa replied. Representatives from 47 species are here to honor Amy Rodriguez and the other medical workers who died. The ceremony was being broadcast throughout the galaxy. Every species that had allied with humanity was watching. Every species that had once considered attacking medical workers was also watching. President Hayes stepped up to a podium in front of the memorial wall. Behind him stood Dr. Lisa Grant, Captain Sophie Blake, Dr. Peter Hall, Tony White, and dozens of other humans who had been changed by the war. 5 years ago, the president began, Nurse Amy Rodriguez was murdered for the crime of helping sick people. Her death taught humanity something we had never learned before. There are limits to mercy. The audience of alien ambassadors listened in complete silence. We learned that some actions are so evil, so wrong, that they cannot be forgiven. Targeting. Those who heal is one of those actions. President Hayes paused and looked directly at the cameras that were broadcasting his words across the galaxy. Today we remember Amy Rodriguez and the 2,146 other medical workers who died because they chose to help others. We also remember the lesson their deaths taught us. The president's voice became harder, colder. Humanity offers its medical knowledge freely to all species that respect the sanctity of healing. Our doctors will travel to any world, help any people, and ask for nothing in return. But remember this, we are also the species that will hunt you across the galaxy if you target our healers. The alien ambassadors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had all heard stories about what happened to species that hurt human medical workers. The choice is yours, President Hayes continued. Respect our healers, and we will help you build hospitals and train doctors. Harm them, and you will face the consequences alone. After the ceremony, Dr. Lisa Grant walked through the halls of the medical center. She passed rooms where human doctors were training alien students. She saw laboratories where human and alien scientists worked together to cure diseases. But she also passed offices where the Reaper Medical Corps planned their operations. Maps on the walls showed which species received human medical aid and which species were denied it. Lisa stopped at one particular room where new medical workers were taking their oaths. These young humans were swearing to help anyone who needed it, but also to remember what happened to Amy Rodriguez. I promise to heal the sick and help the injured, one young doctor recited. I also promise to remember that some actions cannot be forgiven. Lisa smiled sadly. These new medical workers would be kinder and more skilled than any in human history. But they would also be harder, more careful, and absolutely ruthless toward anyone who threatened their patients or colleagues. The galaxy had learned to respect human medical workers, but the price of that respect was the end of unlimited human mercy. As the sun set over Earth, Lisa looked up at the stars and thought about Amy Rodriguez. The young nurse had wanted to help everyone, regardless of who they were or what they had done. Her death had saved millions of medical workers throughout the galaxy by teaching everyone that humanity would not tolerate attacks on healers. But it had also changed humanity forever. They were still the species that explored space with wonder and offered help to anyone who needed it. But they were also the species that remembered every attack on their healers and responded with cold, calculated vengeance. Tony White joined Lisa as she watched the stars. "Do you think Amy would approve of what we have become?" he asked. Lisa thought about the question for a long time before answering. "I think Amy would be happy that no other nurse has been murdered for trying to save lives," she said finally. "I think she would be proud that medical workers throughout the galaxy are now safe. And the other part? The part where we deny medical care to our enemies?" Lisa looked at Tony with eyes that had seen too much death and too much cruelty. Amy was murdered because she was kind. The galaxy learned that kindness has limits. Sometimes, the only way to protect good people is to be absolutely merciless to evil ones. The stars continued to shine down on Earth, where humanity continued to train the galaxy's best doctors and most feared reapers. They were the same people, dedicated to the same cause, making sure that those who chose to heal would never again fear those who chose to harm. The age of unlimited human mercy was over. The age of protected human healing had begun. And the galaxy was learning to live with both.